Some people move through life as if nothing can touch them. A bad day at work rolls off their back. A disrespectful word vanishes into thin air. Life hurls its challenges, and they simply continue on their path, undisturbed. Meanwhile, for so many of us, the smallest ripple can feel like a tidal wave. A strange text message can unravel the morning. A car cutting us off in traffic can poison the afternoon. A random comment online can send us spiraling into hours of overthinking. It feels as though we have no command over our own inner world. But here is the truth. You do have control. You simply haven't been taught how to wield it. Those who remain calm and unbothered have learned a powerful secret, something the ancient Stoics understood centuries ago. When you stop allowing the outside world to dictate how you feel on the inside, you become free. You become strong. You become untouchable. This is a journey into that strength, a journey toward learning how to stop giving your energy to things that don't deserve it, how to stop reacting and start living with a genuine, unshakable peace. If that sounds like a freedom you are searching for, consider joining us on this path. Your subscription is a small gesture that means a great deal. Now, let us begin. Have you ever stopped to consider how much of what bothers you isn't truly real? At least, not in the way you perceive it. You see, you are not reacting to the world itself. You are reacting to the story your mind tells you about the world. A look, a tone of voice, a delay in a response. It is not the event that wounds you, but the meaning you attach to it. This is the crucial lesson we are so rarely taught. We are trained to respond to what we see, but never to question the lens through which we are seeing it. This is where many of us remain trapped. We walk through life saying things like, "He made me feel stupid," or "That ruined my day." But pause for a moment. Did that person truly make you feel anything? Or did you assign a meaning to their words, and then allow that meaning to run rampant through your mind? The ancient Stoics articulated this perfectly. It is not things that upset us, but our judgments about those things. This wasn't merely philosophy. It was a profound psychological insight, centuries before psychology had a name. Imagine you're at the gym. Someone glances in your direction and frowns. Instantly, your mind may leap into action. Are they judging my form? Do I look out of place? Am I doing this wrong? But perhaps they were lost in thought about their own difficult day. Perhaps they weren't even looking at you. Yet, in mere seconds, you have constructed an entire narrative of judgment from thin air. As the psychologist Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." This is precisely what is happening. You are not responding to reality. You are responding to a projection. Most of us see the world not as it is, but through a fog of past hurts, old rejections, and fears we have never confronted. If your heart has been broken, you may see suspicion in every gesture of love. If you have been heavily criticized, you may hear judgment in every neutral comment. It is like navigating the world with a cracked lens. Everything feels personal, even when it is not. Socrates declared that the unexamined life is not worth living. He wasn't speaking of academic debate. He was speaking of the profound responsibility to examine your own lens. Because until you do, you will remain caught in a cycle of reaction, where every minor event feels like a major threat. And each time you react without pausing, you reinforce the illusion that you are powerless, a victim of circumstance. But you are not. The world can poke and prod, but only you can decide if it hurts. What is truly happening is that your brain is running an old program. See, label, react. But what if you could rewrite the code? What if, instead of reacting, you learned to pause? In that tiny space between stimulus and response, That is where your power lives. Aristotle touched upon this when he said, "Anyone can become angry. That is easy. But to be angry with the right person, to the right degree, at the right time, for the right purpose, and in the right way, that is not easy." That insight holds the key to emotional mastery. It isn't about suppressing what you feel. It is about choosing, consciously, how and when to let an emotion move through you. Here is the practice that can change your life. Begin to question your feelings, not with cynicism, but with gentle curiosity. When something upsets you, pause and ask, "Is this truly about them? Or has this touched something old and unresolved within me?" That single question can break the spell. It interrupts the old pattern and invites a new way of seeing. Instead of living as a puppet pulled by the strings of every external trigger, you begin to live as a person, clear, grounded, and centered. Plato believed that what we perceive as reality is often just a shadow of the truth. Most of what you think is real is merely a version of it, shaped and colored by your mind. So, ask yourself, is this moment the truth, or is it just my interpretation? And if it is just a story, do I truly wish to keep telling it? The people who remain calm under pressure, the ones who are not rattled by petty slights, are not cold. They are clear. They have trained themselves to interrupt their automatic reactions, and the more they practice that sacred pause, the more inner space they create. That space becomes peace. That peace becomes strength. And that strength becomes a quiet power that has nothing to prove to anyone. The beauty of this is that it is not about perfection. It is about awareness. Every time you catch yourself spiraling and choose not to follow the thought, you win. Every time you pause instead of lash out, you grow. Every time you challenge the story instead of accepting it as fact, you reclaim a piece of your mind. So, the next time something pushes your buttons, do not ask, "Why is this happening to me?" Instead, ask, "What inside of me is allowing this to affect me?" That is where the real work begins. That is how you transform from a puppet of your emotions into the quiet master of your own mind. Stoicism was never about being emotionless. It was about mastering emotion, so that nothing, and no one, could ever again have control over your peace. And that is true freedom. From the moment we are old enough to understand words, we are being conditioned. We are taught that our value is dependent on the opinions of others. We learn that fitting in is more important than being at peace, and that our worth is measured in likes, approvals, and applause. The strangest part is that we don't even notice it happening. It is simply the water we swim in. School, family, media, culture, all of it points us in one direction. Care what people think. Care a great deal. This is not an accident. It is systemic. The world around us is engineered to keep us reactive. Social media algorithms do not reward quiet clarity. They reward outrage, conflict, and comparison. As you scroll, a feeling creeps in that your life is not enough, that you are behind, that you are missing out. That feeling is the hook. Every like, comment, and share is designed to tether your attention to external validation. The Stoic emperor Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The opinion of 10,000 men is of no value if none of them know anything about the subject." Yet we chase these opinions relentlessly, as if they define our very being. This extends to the marketplace. Entire industries are built on first selling you a problem and then offering you the solution. You are too old, too young, too quiet, too loud. The message is relentlessly consistent. You are not enough unless you buy this product. The more insecure you feel, the more you consume. Your emotional reactivity is not just a personal quirk. It is a profit model. The more easily you are triggered, the more predictable and profitable you become. Carl Jung observed that People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own souls. And what better distraction from one's own soul than to be constantly swept away by the drama, opinions, and expectations of others? If you are always reacting, you are never still enough to hear your own voice. You never get the chance to ask, what do I truly want? What actually matters to me? Even our closest relationships can feed on this reactivity. Toxic dynamics thrive on your explosions, your panic, your self-doubt. If someone knows how to push your buttons, they know how to control you. The more emotionally reactive you are, the more easily you can be manipulated. The moment someone learns what sets you off, they hold your leash. Plato warned, "The measure of a man is what he does with power." But the first question must be, who holds power over you? Picture a large control panel strapped to your chest. Every button is labeled with an insecurity: anger, fear, jealousy, guilt. And the people around you know exactly which ones to press. Someone hits the insecurity button, and you begin to spiral. Someone taps anger, and you erupt. This is how most of us live: exposed, vulnerable, and easily provoked. Now imagine unplugging that control panel entirely. Imagine someone says something intended to wound you, and you simply don't react. Not because you are weak, but because you are free. You feel no need to prove them wrong, no urge to fire back. The sting isn't there in the same way. This is not indifference. This is power. As Socrates suggested, he who is not a good servant will not be a good master. If you cannot manage your own inner state, how can you ever hope to lead your own life with clarity? When you unplug from the need for external validation, you discover a freedom most people will never know. You stop rushing to explain yourself. You stop overthinking messages. You stop taking personally things that were never about you in the first place. You become steady, like a rock in a storm. People begin to notice, not because you are loud, but because your peace is unshakable. And yes, some may call you cold or distant. Let them. What they perceive as detachment is, in fact, discipline. It is the conscious choice not to hand out your peace of mind as if it were worthless. Aristotle said, "Knowing yourself is the beginning of all wisdom." When you know who you are, when you are anchored in that truth, the noise of others cannot move you. You are not heartless for refusing to react. You are wise for protecting your energy. You have simply decided to stop letting others play with your inner world. You have unplugged the panel. You have taken back the controls. And in a world addicted to chaos, that kind of calm is a superpower. The world does not want you to be calm. It wants you reactive, impulsive, and easily offended, because that is what keeps its gears turning. But when you cease to offer that reaction, you break the cycle. You stop being a puppet and begin to become the architect of your own reality. Every time you choose not to react, you are training your mind for freedom. And in that quiet space between what happens and how you respond, you discover that nothing outside of you can truly control you unless you allow it. There is a profound misunderstanding about what it means to be calm. It is often mistaken for apathy, for a cold heart, for being distant and emotionally shut off. But true detachment is not about caring less. It is about caring correctly. It is the wisdom to refuse to let every small disturbance hijack your peace. The more reactive you are, the more control the world has over you. If everything gets to you, you will never have the energy for what truly matters. The ancient Stoics had a name for this ideal state: apatheia. This doesn't mean apathy as we know it today, but rather a state of inner tranquility, where your soul remains untouched by external chaos. It is the ability to let the world move around you, but not through you. Picture yourself as a great tree in a storm. The wind howls, the rain lashes down, The noise is real. But you do not bend to it. You stand rooted, present, and powerful. That is what true detachment feels like. The first step in building this strength is to observe, not absorb. Imagine walking into a room thick with tension. People are snapping at each other, and you can feel the heaviness in the air. The old you might have immediately inhaled that tension, becoming irritable and defensive without knowing why. But the wiser you simply notices it. You observe the energy in the room as you might observe the weather, acknowledging it without becoming the storm itself. You recognize they are going through something, but you do not make their struggle your own. Carl Jung once wrote, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves." When you realize most of what bothers you is not personal but a projection. This quote strikes with profound clarity. Next, you must master the power of the pause. This may be the most underrated skill in the modern world. The moment someone challenges us, we are conditioned to retaliate, to defend ourselves, to prove our worth. But what if, instead of reacting, you simply paused? Just for a breath. A single beat of silence. You hold that space, not out of fear, but out of control. In that gap between their words and your response, your freedom lives. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke at any moment." The pause is your power to revoke, and from here, the real shift begins. You starve the drama. Drama, like a fire, requires fuel. Gossip only spreads when people take the bait. Arguments only explode when both sides keep feeding the flames. Toxic people thrive on your reaction. When you stop giving them your energy, when you refuse to feed the beast, it starves. And eventually, it fades away. Aristotle once wryly suggested, "To avoid criticism, say nothing, do nothing, be nothing." But we can twist this for our own purpose. Your silence is not for their approval, it is for your own strength. You are not avoiding conflict. You are refusing to participate in chaos. This is not easy, especially in a world that rewards loud emotional displays. But that kind of attention is a sugar rush, fleeting and empty. The people who possess true strength are often the quiet ones, those who are not ruled by every opinion, insult, or minor setback. Socrates taught that self-control is the foundation of all wisdom. He was not wrong. When you control your reactions, you are not just avoiding problems, you are building character. So, no, being unbothered does not mean you are cold or distant. It means you have grown. It means you have reached a place where you understand your peace is too valuable to give away freely. You have realized that not every situation deserves your energy, not every argument requires your voice, and not every insult warrants a response. Some things are just noise. And when you stop dancing to the chaos loses its power over you. The mindset is this: not everything is about you. Not every tone, glance, or delay is a personal attack. And even if it is, you get to choose whether it enters your mind and occupies space in your day. The more you practice this, the lighter you become. You begin to feel the world can spin as wildly as it wants, but you remain still, clear, and solid. So when someone tells you, "You've changed," you can simply smile. Because yes, you have. You are no longer here to be pulled into every fire. You are here to learn how to walk through the flames without getting burned. And that is what it means to be untouchable. Stoicism does not ask you to ignore life. It asks you to master your response to it. And once you do that, once you stop letting everything get to you, you finally begin to live on your own terms. There comes a moment in this practice a quiet, almost imperceptible shift. It is not a thunderclap of revelation, but a gentle dawn. It is the moment you truly learn to let go, not in a careless or cold-hearted way, but in a wise, measured, and deeply liberating way. You stop handing out pieces of yourself to things that do not deserve them. And when you do, the world around you begins to change. At first it is subtle. People who used to provoke your insecurities seem to lose their power. A comment that once would have haunted you for days now rolls off your back. The mental tug-of-war you played with problems and past regrets finally loosens its grip. You begin to see how much of your stress was self-made, how many of your battles were fought against shadows. Most of the things that once consumed your energy were not real in the way you thought. They were your reaction, your attachment, your story. And now, without that story, life feels lighter. This is the power of emotional stillness. The Stoics believed tranquility of the mind was the ultimate good. As Marcus Aurelius put it, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." The moment you stop reacting to everything, the outside world starts losing its hold on your inner state. That is when true strength emerges, not loud or aggressive, but quiet, calm, and immovable. Most of us have been programmed from childhood to react. When stress appears, we panic. When criticized, we defend. When we fail, we spiral. It is as if our brains have pre-installed scripts, and the moment life presses a button, we play out the same scene again and again. But what if you could rewrite the code? What if, when stress hit, you simply breathed? No frantic scramble, just a steady breath. What if criticism landed, and instead of rushing to justify yourself, you simply held your ground? Not because you are passive, but because your worth is no longer up for debate. Carl Jung once said, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely." He called it terrifying because once you are fully anchored in your own being, criticism can no longer wound you, because you are no longer trying to defend an image of who you think you should be. Reprogramming your emotional responses does not mean becoming numb. It means becoming free. Each time you defy your ingrained reactions, choosing calm over chaos, grace over defensiveness, you are forging a new path in your mind. Slowly, your brain learns a new language, one of presence, power, and peace, leaving behind the old dialects of panic and drama. This leads to a question that can change everything. What story are you telling yourself right now? Every emotion is bound to a narrative. If you cast yourself as the victim, pain will be your constant companion. If you see the villain in the mirror, shame will shadow your every step. But when you decide you are the hero of your own epic, every setback becomes a plot twist, every insult becomes fuel, and every hard moment, a chapter in your ascent. Plato once declared, "The first and greatest victory is to conquer yourself." This conquest begins not on a battlefield, but within the narrative you choose to live by. When something triggers you, pause and ask, through what lens am I viewing this? You cannot always control the facts of your life, but you can always choose the frame you place around them. That choice, repeated over time, will reshape your entire emotional landscape. Now, let us turn to one of the sharpest tools in your emotional arsenal: the art of disarming others without lifting a finger. There is a profound strength that arises not from a shouted retort, but from a quiet smile and an unwavering stillness. When someone directs an insult your way, and you meet it not with resistance but with calm agreement, it dismantles their attack. It severs the cord to their power. "You're too quiet." "Yes, I value my peace." "You don't care, do you?" "Not about things that don't matter." "You think you're better than everyone?" "I think I'm better than the person I was yesterday." You are not dodging the blow. You are catching it in mid-flight and dissolving it into air. This mastery of self echoes the wisdom of Socrates, who spoke of physical training. It is a shame for a man to grow old without seeing the beauty and strength of which his body is capable. But does this not apply with even greater force to the mind? Why live your entire life ruled by fleeting reactions? When you tune out the meaningless noise, you create sacred space to care deeply for what truly matters. You cease wasting vital energy on defense and instead invest it in your own growth. You guard your inner peace as if it were a holy relic, because it is. You no longer engage in battles that are not yours to fight. You release the need to prove yourself to minds already closed. You refuse to entertain the drama designed to pull you down, and in doing so, you begin to live in a new way. You walk into rooms with presence, not pressure. You face situations with clarity, not fear. You become the person who does not merely weather the storm, but is the calm at its very center. This isn't born from apathy, but from a profound shift, from finally caring about the right things. This transformation is rare. Most people never find this path. But if you continue to practice these small, subtle shifts, to question your reactions, rewrite your mental scripts, and choose your peace over your pride, then one day, you will look back and realize you didn't just survive life. You mastered it. When you stop letting the world control your reactions, you don't become colder. You become clearer, calmer, stronger. That is the quiet kind of power no one can take from you. And once you have tasted it, there is no going back. If this message spoke to something in you, there's another video on the screen right now that will take you even deeper. Trust me, you're going to want to see it. Thank you for being here, for thinking deeper, and for being a part of Stoic Journal. Until next time, stay grounded and keep walking the quiet path.